इनको, मैं हाथ जोड़ती हूँ, प्रधानमंत्री जी सुनिए।
In today's eye-opening episode, we sit down with PETA India's one of the most eligible, Dr. Kiran Ahuja. PETA India's manager of vegan and corporate projects, guided by a vision of kinder world. Is PETA more focused on animal suffering than human suffering, like poverty and hunger?
You should ask this question to McDonald's, KFC, and Burger King. And what are they doing?
Is it true that villages use donkey blood to boost energy in kids? Is it?
Where we had seen donkeys' throats being slit under a flyover or behind makeshift stalls, and this is all roadside, okay? People who do animal abuse are 3 times more likely to all forms of other human crimes, including rape, murder, assault, drug abuse, threats, or everything.
India is the second largest supplier, traders of beef.
Yeah, and people don't know. I mean, these cows, one, they are artificially impregnated year after year because obviously a cow or a buffalo, like any other mammal, produces milk.
In Kerala, PETA has already been replaced abused elephants in temple rituals. You already told me behind the scenes also that there is a mechanical one, the temple elephants, right? Is Vantara legal or illegal?
We do not really know about that. The only capacity in which we engage with them is that rescued animals are there.
This genre of podcast has been misused. I don't know what the hell is this, but आपको बलि देना पड़ता है for वशीकरण and all these things.
कामाख्या वामाचार पद्धति जो होता है, माँ संतुष्ट होता है आपका बोली से, जो आपका बकरा कह दीजिए, आपका कबूतर दीजिए, आपका भैंस जो होता है.
भारत की 70% जनता नॉन वेजिटेरियन है. इट्स ऑन रिकॉर्ड. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया मैं नहीं.
PETA India has been running a midday meal campaign. Can you just spotlight what is that?
75% of Indians are lactose intolerant.
What are the biggest legal gaps in India when it comes to protecting animals?
It's we have a very good section 325 to protect animals.
Are you funded by foreign agencies to promote veganism and disrupt Indian agriculture system? Welcome to Let's Off Leash, world first animal podcast that doesn't bark, it bites. Stay with me for the next hour क्योंकि आज हम सिर्फ कहानी नहीं क्रांति लेके आएंगे. The greatness of a nation can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Mahatma Gandhi. So, not wasting a little second of time, meet Dr. Kiran Ahuja. Welcome to LOL Let's Off Leash. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Kasturi, for having me here. I'm so excited. I've seen your podcast and I'm already a fan. So it's real pleasure. And yeah, I'm really humbled to be here. Thank you.
Dr. Kiran Ahuja. It's a name for PETA. Everyone knows it's a rebel, like real kind of revelations. How did you join PETA?
So it happened in 2019. And I was a lifelong vegetarian, and only after seeing PETA's, horror of the dairy industry, Indian dairy industry footages, I went vegan. I think a few years before I had joined PETA. And ever since, I had always loved animals. As a child, I had pets. So we had street animals and used to pick up puppies and get them home, and we used to take care of them, take care of their mothers. So I already had it as a really, really, close thing to my heart, the animal rights and animal welfare thing. And once I went vegan, I started reading more and more about the issue and how I was also contributing in so many other ways. Of course, vegan diet is just one aspect. But there's so many other ways that, we unknowingly contribute to animal suffering, be it, using products that are tested on animals, or engaging in activities that actually exploit animals. So I think it was a very automatic corrective measure, and I was more and more inclined. And as I really started feeling so deeply about the issue, I wanted to also, align my life, my principles, my action with my profession. And I was a physiotherapist and a nutritionist, and I practiced for close to 7 years before I made this switch. And, it was just one fine day, the opportunity came along, and I just went for it. And I can't be more thankful for this opportunity that I received in my life to make my passion my profession. And and rest is history. So it's been close to 5 years now with PETA India, and I'm really, really glad that I made this move.
So if I say that who can join PETA, like is there a degree needed or hiring secret? Like what are the qualities or what are the skills they need to join PETA?
So, joining PETA is pretty simple. Actually, anyone, who feels for animal and who has compassion for animals can join PETA. Of course, what would you want to join in as is a separate subject. People can join us by, joining our activist network, where people can receive updates about our demonstrations. They can volunteer with us. We have a membership program. PETA has over 2 million members and supporters, and people can join in by just making a small contribution of 1,000 rupees or more. And PETA activists receive information about where we are doing demonstrations or activities where we need activist help. And it's not just about joining PETA. I mean, people can help animals even in their personal capacity. So there's so much that they can do. They can take, PETA India's Compassionate Citizen program to the schools, to the children in their localities, in their cities. People can, walk dogs and play, engage with cats in the local shelters. They can put out water bowls for animals. People can also help PETA with, leafleting for animals. We have a huge, range of literature that is there on different subjects, and people can raise awareness on social media or by leafleting. People can sign petitions to do the least, to help animals. So,
Exactly.
and of course, whoever wants to join in, we also have vacancies that are listed on our website. So they can go there and check it out. But there's so many other ways. Every small little way that, people can engage to help animals matters.
Correct. And I'm not going to not changing the track, but will this be a paid job? Literally kind of a paid kind of MNCs, kind of entrepreneurs, kind of founders, all kind of a corporate job we do, or a 9 to 5 job kind of. This is a paid job, right?
So this can, of course, we have the volunteer network and activist network, and they literally just volunteer with us for animals. And of course, then there is your paid job, which is a separate thing. And we are a very small team, but of course we do have vacancies, and that's also there. Yeah, that's separate. But for people who just are engaged in some other profession, who are engaged in studies or can't, provide so much of time or join us full time, they can join us as volunteers and activists.
Amazing. So guys, if you're waiting and you done your the studies, be kind with animals. Can join PETA then. Compassion, right? But you have compassion and guts, go for PETA. It's a new opportunities for youth. And if I say that, can you walk us through PETA India's current priorities and campaigns?
Yeah, sure. So PETA works on a simple principle, and to help the animals, where in industries where the greatest number are harmed, such as in the food sector, in fashion, animals used for experimentation, animals used for entertainment, in the pet trade, etc. So yes, we do a lot of work. We encourage people to go vegan, eat vegan, because there are 92 billion land animals and trillions of fishes killed every year just for food. We ask people to wear vegan, and there are so many vegan bio leather and biomaterials available where people can choose compassionate, make compassionate choices. Thanks to PETA India, today in India, cosmetics and household products are no longer tested on animals. And we have also worked to get a ban on import of cosmetics that are tested on animals to India. We also, have encouraged people through various means. For example, we have an animatronic elephant called Ellie, which goes to schools to, educate children about not using animals, elephant and alike, for ride and for entertainment. So there are various ways in which, we try to help animals, and, these are just some of the focused areas where greatest number of animals are harmed.
Wow, and this concept is very nice. Like the people are running for AI and all these things, and PETA done that elephant.
Absolutely. And for anyone, who has a little extra time, they can even, I understand that not everyone can engage so much. And for anyone who has love and compassion for animals, we encourage them to adopt, they see animals from the local shelter or from the streets rather than buying them from, breeders, which are like really horrible people who keep animals and exploit them for their profits in the most horrible ways.
And the best part, today morning only, when I was fiddling around any news, any job and all these things, I was fiddling around. The best part, I saw that there's a big victory for PETA, and they got win for AKC kennels. They have banned that. Already case FIRs has been taken, and so many dogs breeds are there who has not been breeded anymore, and that's a big victory for PETA. Today morning is the best day. I was excited for our shoot and everything, and just I opened it and I got this PETA news and I was so excited. If I tell that, what's the most shocking thing you have witnessed? Like, was there a particular moment or case that made you fully commit to animal rights activism?
So, there have been, growing up, you see so many people being unkind to animals, being cruel to animals. And I think I've had experienced that since childhood. And that is how, I wish my compassion was shaped towards animals, because I really felt that they are the most discriminated and most abused of all beings on the planet.
Absolutely.
And I think the very moment was not very recently in my life, but I think it was 7-8 years ago. I was visiting my parents in Raipur, Chhattisgarh. So that's my native. And so I used to visit them for vacations, and I was around, and I was just passing through a street and I saw a really little calf, and I had actually mistaken the calf for a dog. It was so tiny, and I was shocked because the calf was really frail, and I really couldn't believe it was a calf. Like, it was so small, so tiny, and really emaciated. So I stopped and I wanted to see, it definitely looked sick. So I wanted to help. And, this is before I had gone vegan. So close to 8 years ago. And I I did. I mean, I did help. I connected with the local groups and I got the calf picked up because he was so sick. And after picking the calf up, I also followed up with the local charity who did that. And I got to know that the calf did not survive. Like, after a couple of days, I received the news. And that actually made me think about the reason why a calf as tiny as him, and it was a male calf, okay, as tiny as him would be all by himself on the road and confront, my speciesism. And I really realized then that it was because male calves are of no value to the dairy industry and are typically discarded because they cannot produce milk, right? So they are typically abandoned on the road or sent to slaughter for, their skin and for meat, beef. And it, of course, I mean, seeing stray cattle in Raipur is a very common sight. But it doesn't, really make you question why. And this tiny calf actually made me question my own ethics because I used to consider myself an animal lover because I was a lifelong vegetarian. I used to love dogs and cats. I used to rescue dogs and cats. And I was so committed. And I would pick up fights with people who would relocate puppies. And I had to question my own ethics because how different is it? Because if we separate puppies from the dog mothers, isn't the same as separating, this male calf from their cow
Absolutely.
mothers? So it's absolutely the
Mother
same.
is a
And
mother.
that was
Yeah.
really, so that was a really, really shocking and what do you say, a moment that actually changed a lot in my life. I was always an animal lover, but that moment really made me think about every tiny thing, every action, every possible way I'm consuming in this world, question, and to ensure that I'm aligned. So that was the moment.
That's that turning moment. And there's a very interesting case I recently heard, and even behind the scene we talked about, but I wanted to discuss with this so nations can global people can understand what's going around behind any people's psychology, because we say we are advanced, we are progressing, we are developing, but I came across is it true that villages use donkey blood to boost energy in kids? Is it?
Yeah, so I think, Kasturi, there are two things. One is the cruelty that we have normalized, right? Chaining cows to a stall and to impregnate them over and over again, to take the babies away from them so that the milk can be consumed by humans, or to keep chickens confined in really tiny cages. They don't even get, space more than an A4 size paper for their entire lives. They're not able to do anything that's, meaningful and natural to them. And so we have normalized these kind of cruelties. We have so many illegal chicken shops around us that kill animals in the full sight of other animals without any stunning, in their full consciousness and all of this. So this is one is conditioning. We have been conditioned to accept this violence, to normalize this violence. This is one thing. And that also, normalizing this violence does have an effect on our psychology. And that is why, we see more and more people showing these kind of violent tendencies towards other animals as well, where, it's considered not so normal. But again, violence is violence, and it's basically the psychology that we are carrying forward. And therefore, you see all these kind of things like donkey blood, being used in some sort of superstitious practices, etc. In fact, I would want to share this with you that PETA India has, investigated this donkey illegal. This is illegal. Donkey meat, donkey blood, everything is illegal. Donkey meat, business in Andhra Pradesh, where we had seen donkeys' throats being slit under a flyover or behind makeshift stalls, and this is all roadside, okay? And and we had worked with police there, and of course we did file the complaints, and we also rescued 78 donkeys from the illegal donkey meat trade. So I mean, and it's not just about the meat being illegal. It's of course illegal. Killing donkeys for meat or for blood is a punishable offense under Section 325 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, punishable with up to 5 years imprisonment. But other than that, it also has a huge zoonotic disease risk. Zoonotic disease risk, and serious diseases like tuberculosis, glanders can spread through these kind of illegal blood and donkey meat businesses.
And it's shocking, but somehow the superstitions and this myths has been spreaded by, as we call, educated people. And nowadays you will see podcasting, and podcast is kind of a like status of what are you doing? I'm doing podcasting. So this genre of podcast has been misused by many people. It can be India's biggest chore, who can say I am मैं चोर नहीं हूँ, using the platform, using the janta, or like this kind of babas who come and tell shit about all this. Recently I was going through two of the podcasts, and one is in my regional language, like my hometown language, Bengali, and another one is in Hindi. And both the podcast platforms are having huge number of subscriptions, huge number of people are watching, where they're openly telling that आपको बलि देना पड़ता है for वशीकरण and all these things. मुर्गे का गर्दन झटकना पड़ता है, and आपको blood गिराना पड़ता है, and the shit is going around on air. I don't know why YouTube has not been blurred, or why YouTube have not been taking any step against all this openly talking about animal violence in like in the disguise of the superstitions. And you never know, जैसे आपने donkey blood का ये बोला ना, तो I can correlate it. You never know, back of the mind, कोई कहीं से कोई भी किसी के दिमाग में चल रहा है ना, and they can straightforwardly go and try this magic kind of superstition. I don't know what the hell is this, but एक animal, एक निर्बोल जीव चला जाएगा इस चक्कर में. And people say we are advanced, we are developing. How? Well, I can't understand. Literally, I can't understand.
No, absolutely. I think people need to really take that personal responsibility towards what they are propagating through their platforms, and that, I mean, it's something that they should be held accountable for. But I think what's more sad is that there are people who are consuming this kind of content. So that's even more worrying, and we need to really think about what kind of society are we building by propagating this kind of violence and superstition in our societies. And I mean, there's already way too much negativity and violence towards animals, and we would really need to, probably people should actually file complaint against such content, because it's absolutely because today they are talking about doing certain sort of tantric superstition with animal blood or animal killing, and tomorrow of course they're going to suggest doing it with humans, and that's how it progresses, right? Even with all sort of cruelties that happen today with animals, there are studies that have now they actually show the connection between animal cruelty and other type of, crime towards humans, including domestic abuse, child abuse. So we already are seeing, this connection. In fact, there are some studies on serial killers and mass murderers, which show that these serial killers, they actually started off with animals as their initial victims, and then they progressed on to humans, to harming humans, killing humans, and becoming serial killers. And we have so many examples. I would Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, John. Yeah, I mean, there are so many examples, and we know that they started off with, animals first, and then they progressed to humans. And even in India, like we have examples such as, Amirul Islam. He is the person who raped and murdered, very young law student called G. Shah from Kerala. And he started off with raping and murdering cows, goats and, dogs. So these are the kind of people. We have a very famous example of Virappan, who was a serial killer, but who also used to poach elephants. So there are so many examples we have in front of us. In fact, there is a study which states that people who do animal abuse are 3 times more likely to do all forms of other human crimes, including rape, murder, assault, drug abuse, threats, or everything.
Yeah, because there's a very famous movie also of Nawazuddin Siddiqui's. I don't remember the name of that movie, where the first murder he did is the stray dog. He he took a rod and smashed the head. The first crime he did. After that, it been so easy for her to target all the women's.
Yeah,
The
and
very
of
famous
course, movies
movie is
are
there.
inspired by, what happens in a society.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a psychology, and you cannot count it minority doing, majority doing, minority class doing. The crime is the crime. Doesn't matter which status, which class it is. Because with this only, there's an amazing thing that from Baywatch to Animal Watch, Pamela Anderson turned her fame into flame when she stood with PETA India against elephant abuse in temples. That's the status where the robotic animal, I think, PETA has introduced. Like, do you think this culture evolves when it causes suffering? Like, animal suffers PTSD, cracked back, chained legs, and in Kerala, PETA has already been replaced abused elephants in temple rituals. You already told me behind the scenes also that there's a mechanical one, the temple elephants, right?
Yeah, I think, the best thing about cultures is that cultures change, okay? And we really need to question, what kind of practices we are following in the name of culture. As you gave an example of, these elephants that are used in so many temples, majorly in south of India. And, people don't even realize, I mean, it's a huge, majestic animals. And, they are tamed with force. They are beaten with like really sharp weapons called ankush. They are kept chained for hours together. They are kept in isolation without them having any kind of contact with any other elephant. Elephants are social beings. Their spirits are broken so that they follow human command, which is really, I'm appalled at the idea in this modern time where we have like so many other ways to engage in a cultural activities without harming, animals and such intelligent animals as elephants. And therefore, PETA India has taken this like really wonderful initiative. We have donated mechanical elephants, and today in south of India 18 such mechanical elephants are being used by different temples for ceremonies and processions, and 13 of which were donated by PETA India in collaboration with celebrities like Sunil Shetty, Priyamani, Parvati. So we are really glad that we are able to bring in this change that a society asks for at and in this day and age. And mechanical elephants, unlike real elephants, do not mind obeying human commands. They do not need any sort of veterinary care. They do not need to be tamed, or and they look and feel exactly like real elephants. They are like 3 feet tall, weigh 800 kgs. They can, flap their ears, they can move their eyes, they can even, raise their trunk and shower water from their trunk. So it's such a beautiful innovation. And more and more temples are like, making this shift. So we're really glad about it.
Really, really, really glad. And there was a case, I think, in ISKCON Temple, Mayapur, where a Mahout elephant was sent to Vantara for rehabilitations. Maybe after killing in Tripura also this happened when Maneka Gandhi ji came, the MP Maneka Gandhi ji came with PETA India, and they also that commit that Supreme Court recommended transferring these elephants to Vantara. Like severe neglects are going on and all this. But behind this or beside this, there was many news that is Vantara legal or illegal?
So, Kasturi, many elephants that PETA India has rescued from rides, circuses, and other exploitative places have gone to Vantara. In fact, one of the hippo that we rescued from Asiad Circus is also now in Vantara and is having another hippo companion where they are living together. And we only know that that is one place where these elephants that have remained in isolation all their lives, chained and abused, beaten, and to their spirits broken, now can live without any fear of being harmed or being abused or being chained with other elephants. So this is all we know, that some of our elephants have gone there and some of our animals have gone there. But if you talk about the general working of Vantara, so we do not really know about that. The only capacity in which we engage with them is that our rescued animals are there. And honestly, these elephants, as I said, because they are so abused, they get psychologically sick. They are really psychologically distressed, and that psychological distress can also be seen in various incidents where elephants have harmed humans or attacked humans. In fact, in Kerala, in just 2 seasons during Puram parades, almost 60 negative interactions of people with elephants have happened because these elephants are paraded in Puram parades. And similarly, there have been close to, over 150 deaths since 2011 till 2023, by elephants, of humans. So there have been so many fatalities and there have been so many incidences because these elephants, they are tortured to the extent where they really go insane. And therefore, these elephants can't be released into the wild and have to go to a rehabilitation center where they can be rehabilitated in the best possible ways. And there are hardly any sanctuaries. There's just Wildlife SOS in Uttar Pradesh, Wildlife Rescue and Rehabilitation Center in Uttar Pradesh, and Vantara in Gujarat that take these abused elephants so that they can live the rest of their lives in without any fear of being beaten or chained, and in company of other elephants, because as I said, elephants are very social and intelligent beings. So that's about it.
we were also talking about there's a very interesting campaign PETA has been running. PETA India has been running. It's a midday meal campaign. Can you just spotlight what is that? It's a very interesting campaign.
Sure. So actually, that campaign is led by me.
Yeah,
So
I know. Yeah.
yeah. So Kasturi, actually, this campaign aims to ensure that children are getting really healthy, vegan, nutritionally adequate diets. And eggs and dairy are one of the biggest allergens for children. And of course, I mean, with eggs, there are so many other sort of disadvantages and harms eggs can carry, infections like salmonella and E. coli that can really harm kids. And these salmonella and E. coli based infections are actually the prime reason for diarrheal disease. And diarrheal disease is actually the main culprit for malnutrition in children. So by ensuring that children receive like really good healthy vegan diets, we want to ensure that their future is secured. Even with dairy, 75% of Indians are lactose intolerant. That is, we lose our ability to digest milk properly after infancy. So it's only in the childhood, in infancy, when we can digest milk, and that too, of course, has to be your mother's milk. And after that, we lose the ability, and therefore, a lot of children also have all sort of issues, abdominal discomfort, bloating, and all other types of issues. So therefore, this initiative to veganize midday meals, and we have so many healthy and nutritious plant-based options. You name it. I mean, there's pulses, millets, there are beans, seeds, and nuts. So many ways to provide safe nutrition to children. In fact, animal-based products are also linked with all sort of lifestyle diseases later in life, and there have been so many studies, and even now doctors and nutritionists, they recommend that eating vegan protects one from, developing lifestyle diseases later in life, including certain type of cancers, ischemic heart disease, diabetes, obesity. So therefore, the vegan midday meal, and India is actually the world leader in millet production, and millet are now, the new power food. I mean, we have had it in our culture since ages, but now it has suddenly become a superfood, and we have it here. And there have been studies, in fact, which have shown that millet is very well accepted by children in midday meals. So yeah, we are aiming to, have our children eat more nutritious. And in fact, it's not just about providing them vegan meals, but is also important for their formative years. Like, we want our children to be compassionate and conscientious human beings. And that can only happen, if they are they are consuming products that are not just healthy for them, but also something that they can align with, and that they can understand where the food comes from.
But the initiative is amazing, but there is a small, you can say, a doubt for me, a curiosity, because India still today, that rural India's villages are there where it's very hard to have two-time meals consistently. Two-time meals, or kind of midday meals, are also kind of that many schools are giving midday meals to the government, from government funded, or kind of. Do you really think they can afford this veganism, or they can afford this midday meal changes, like for kids who barely have good clothes or good food? Forget it, barely they have food.
I think what people cannot afford to have is to have diseases like diabetes, obesity, ischemic heart disease, cancer. I mean, they can really cost people their lives. So, veganism actually is everything that we eat in our daily lives. I mean, if you just put out the ghee, every Indian meal is normally vegan, like roti, sabzi, dal, chawal. These are vegan foods, and these are like cultural foods. And I do not think that this narrative, I don't think is the right narrative. Vegan food is pretty much what we eat every day. It's not expensive at all. And as I said, millets. India is the world leader in millets, and millets have been in a culture since forever, like jawar, ragi, bajra. This has been, and how nutritious they are. Even if you compare them, eggs, dairy are not even comparable to millets. Like, it's so nutritious in the protein content, in the calcium content. So I think veganism is far more, ingrained in a society than we can actually think. Because when we are thinking about veganism, we are thinking about, oh no, it has to be some sort of, plant-based meat. It doesn't has to be. Vegan food is a everyday food.
See, the problem is, why people judge for veganism and vegan? Because people do not have that clear idea about that food. People don't have that list of food what is actually vegan food is, and they think that they know tofu and all, and they think, oh, vegan means it's a ultra luxury thing.
no.
It's kind of a showbazi, the people mindset is kind ki, because vegan एक Gen Z kind of a term, it comes like it's westernized term. So society को लगता है कि vegan मतलब it's a like, how do I compare, like the Stanley mug or Labubu thing kind of, people compare with this kind of, oh, vegan means who can afford Labubu or Stanley cup, they can go for vegan thing. We are like,
No, and I think this narrative is also set out by people. This veganism is expensive narratives are set out by people who are actually there on the social media, sitting in their laptops and iPhones, and they are talking about affordability. Like, it's not at all. I mean, it amazes me. Also, even if we talk about tofu is actually cheaper than paneer and healthier too. It's way healthier. And to us, it seems that okay, tofu is is something like a foreign concept. It's not. Like, if you see Asian diet, it's everywhere. Tofu is everywhere, and it is cheaper. And I feel what we should also think about is, when we talk about the cost, is not just the cost with money. What it costs to your health, what it costs to the environment. We should talk about environment too, because poor people are disproportionately more, vulnerable to the climate change. We already know that, right? And all these animal-based products are the leading drivers of deforestation, of greenhouse gas emission. In fact, animal-based products are like, contribute 1/5 to the human-induced greenhouse gas. They also, take up 1/3 of the global cropland, 1/3 of the global freshwater resources. So all these resources going into producing these animals, which is absolutely so unsustainable, so that a bunch of people can, eat that. In fact, you'll be surprised to know 60% of the world crops and 80% of world soybean produce is fed to animals that are then consumed by humans, rather than feeding, directly to humans. So it's that disproportionate.
Yeah, when I covered LA, that fire broke out on this land and all. So that there, when I was researching about that actual root cause of this fire, why this devastations took place, I came across the same thing what you said, that this greenhouse thing and this that for animal agricultures and all these things are happening, global warming and global issues, ecosystem has been tarnished, literally tarnished. It's the proper knowledge and the proper diet chart they need to know. As a nutrition's like nutritionist, you will be the best person. One of the very initial question I need to ask you, that a pill that could extend your dog's life will be out soon. So, but have we asked at what cost? Is it really safe for the dogs?
You know, you rightly ask at what cost, because usually these kind of pills and these kind of drugs are actually produced by testing on other animals. In fact, dogs themselves are sometimes the subjects of these experimentations, you know, when they would want to test them for human use. So, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know if this pill is already out there. There is one pill which says that it can extend a dog's life by 1 year. But I think that people can already do with, you know, providing them with good nutrition, good exercise, you know, very well planned, good vegan diet, you know, also with some nutritional supplements that are required as per the age. So I think that people can already do, like extending their life by 1 or 2 years. And there have been some examples, really great examples of, you know, animals and dogs and cats living that long. So yeah.
So absolutely for that only. And isn't we humanizing everything? Like इंसान को बुढ़ा नहीं होना है. They are restricting their age. अब एक process of life and death everyone knows. Yeah, as a dog mom, I know how painful it is. But restricting that sudden thing, it's okay. You can go to the vet, you can give proper nutritions, you can make him live for a healthy life. But आप उसको रोक रहे हो, like this pill thing, it's literally like buzzing my head कि how is it possible? क्या उसके पीछे क्या कॉस्ट होगा कि आप, इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल. आई डोंट थिंक कि आप यूनिवर्स के अगेंस्ट जाके कुछ कर पाओगे. एंड
Exactly.
पीपल आर
And
जस्ट
quality of
ह्यूमनाइजिंग
life
इट.
is also important ना. मतलब आप उनका quality of life, natural wear and tear तो body में होगा ही ना, वो रुकेगा नहीं, जो age के साथ सबका होता है. Yeah. So I think it's not something that's ethical either.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask all my viewers, all my audience that जब डॉग का बात आया, you know how much passionate about, ये तो है. बट मेरा एक पॉइंट है, अगर आप कभी देखते हो रास्ते में कोई डॉग को मार रहा है या बुरा हाल में है, व्हाट यू विल डू? क्या आप एफआईआर करोगे? मुझे नहीं लगता, बिकॉज यू नो कि एफआईआर इज अ थिंग जो सिर्फ इंसान के लिए भी तो आजकल लोग करना नहीं चाहते, और ये तो बस जानवर है, डॉग है. एंड देयर इट कम्स PETA. I have seen that when I was researching 500, more than 500 like FIR 1 year, 500 से ज्यादा या मे बी 5000 से ज्यादा FIR हुआ है एक साल में. Is it true?
जी, so ये मतलब we don't do it. We work with law enforcement authorities, forest officials, municipalities,
Okay.
and individuals, and we facilitate, you know, these complaints. And yeah, again, hundreds of FIRs and PORs, which are preliminary offense reports, जो कि wildlife cases में होती है. So हम ये facilitate करते हैं. And हम लोग not just कि you know companion animal issues या जो community animals हैं जो कि हमारे streets पे हैं, उनके against जो cruelty होती है उस पे act करते हैं. But हम बहुत सारी you know illegal races, we stop illegal animal fights, हम stop कराते हैं. In fact, अभी रिसेंटली हमने क्लोज टू 50 ग्रे हाउंड रेसेस हमने स्टॉप करवाए, 30 पिजन रेसेस जिसको कबूतरबाजी कहा जाता है, वी इंटरवीन, वी
कबूतरबाजी,
स्टॉप्ड दैट. And we also intervene, to save animals from circuses, from illegal boardings, and there's so many ways where animals are harmed. We also do enforcement raids to confiscate, of course, with the law enforcement officials, to confiscate illegal products like manja. So these are like really sharp kite strings that we confiscate, which are banned. They are illegal. And spiked bits, जो कि horses में use होता है, जिसको कांटेदार लगाम बोलते हैं. So they are like really spiked and sharp bits that tear their mouth. I mean, it's used to control horses. So we do all these kind of things, but I think individuals should take action. If someone sees animal cruelty, they definitely should take action, because it's really important for people to understand that they have a responsibility towards those who cannot really go and make a complaint for themselves. We have the responsibility towards them. So what people can do is, like, when they witness a cruelty, immediately they should document, record, or there's a application called timestamp application. So they should record that through timestamp application, so that the date and time is notified. If the animal is hurt, we should ensure that we move the animal to safety. We get them veterinary care. The veterinarian will not only of course give them medical treatment, but will also probably write you a report of how the dog is injured, which will help in making the complaint. And after taking all these things, like all the documentation, one should go and give it to the police and try to file a FIR. And if someone needs help in doing that, we are of course available. They can reach out to PETA and we can help them understand how to go about it. But there has to be a complaint, and they should be filing a complaint if they witness animal cruelty.
And this should be done to anyone's and everywhere's nearest police station, right? So police and forces are bound to take FIRs.
Yes. And as I said, if anyone is facing any difficulty, they can reach out to us and we can guide them.
How to reach out to you guys? Like, how to reach out PETA? Normal people, how can they reach out?
So we run an emergency, line for animals that are in need of immediate veterinary care. So I mean, if an animal is injured or if an animal is hurt, they can call up PETA's emergency response team, and the number is available on our website. This is the phone number. If, I mean, we are not there in your city, we'll at least help you, we'll guide you to connect to a local organization. We'll try to get some sort of help to the animals. And that's how we can be reached. So
amazing. And does PETA is collaborated with any NGOs, like big cities, any NGOs PETA is collaborated with, where initial stage people can go around for the NGOs if PETA is not available?
I mean, so we ourselves are a charitable organization. I mean, we do not have those kind of collaborations, but we definitely have a database. And if an animal is injured in even if some remote area, we can help connect to local authorities. Even if there is no organization, we can definitely reach out to the veterinary department, or if it is a wildlife, to the forest department, and we can guide through and try arrange some help for the animals. But again, whoever is reporting also have a responsibility towards animals, and they have to of course stay around until the animal receives help.
Amazing. Yeah. And it has to be एक responsibility आपको भी लेना होगा. इतना सारा सीरियस के बीच मुझे एक फनी चीज जरूर जानना होगा आपसे कि आपने कभी गूज़बम्स आया है या इट विल बी काइंड ऑफ की रिएक्शन इनसाइड द कोर्ट रूम कि क्या बोलते होंगे कोर्ट रूम में, कभी ऐसा वर्डिक्ट आया है या समथिंग काइंड ऑफ?
So inside a courtroom, you're saying?
या
No, unfortunately, मेरा वैसा interaction नहीं हो पाया. We definitely do have a full-fledged legal team who handles that part. So I'm sure. I mean, I can definitely share their experiences with you, later on.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Got your point. So moving towards this conversations, काफी सारा सवाल जवाब एंड काफी सारी चीजें आम जनता, आम जैसे हमारे जैसे नागरिक को पता चल रही है पीटा के बारे में, क्योंकि बहुत जनों को अभी तक नहीं पता. उनको पीटा मतलब इट्स समथिंग हेवॉक जो हम रीच नहीं कर सकते या हम नहीं बात कर सकते. बट यस, यू कैन अप्रोच की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लो अप एंड या पीटा इज ऑलवेज देयर फॉर यू. पीटा इंडिया इज वर्किंग सो हार्ड कि वो एक्चुअली नॉट ओनली इन अर्बन एरियाज, वो रूरल एरियाज तक पहुंच पाए. सो अभी तक का व्हाट आर द बिगेस्ट लीगल गैप्स इन इंडिया व्हेन इट कम्स टू प्रोटेक्टिंग एनिमल्स?
So, honestly, we do have some really great legal provisions. We do have the recently introduced Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So earlier it was IPC, Indian Penal Code. Now it is Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which was introduced in 2023. And, it's we have a very good Section 325 to protect animals, which protect, which makes it punishable for anyone to, maim, kill, or harm animal in a way that renders them useless. And it's a very strict law with imprisonment up to 5 years and or a fine of 10,000 rupees. So it's there. But yes, we do have another law called Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, which encompasses all other sort of cruelties that happen to animals, that we not really need to, them dying or being severely injured, but other forms of cruelty that may be of lesser intensity or whatever. But and of course it's also in amendment, so we do have provisions, and even with the PCA Act, it's we are pushing for this bill to be tabled, and we have a petition on a website, so people can really go up there on a website and request the ministries to take this up for amendments really soon. Like they should. It is all in amendment. It just has to be tabled in the parliament. So we do have a petition for that, and we really encourage people to go on the website and sign the petition.
Okay, it's quite detailed. Thank you so much, Dr. किरण, कि आपने काफी डिटेल में समझाया. एक क्विक क्वेश्चन है कि प्राडा का कोल्हापुरी लेदर से बना है और रेक्सिन जो इतना वायरल है.
कोल्हापुरी जनरली लेदर से बना होता है. एक्चुअली मुझे लेदर बोलना भी नहीं चाहिए. लेदर जो टर्म है वो हमने दिया हुआ है, इट्स एनिमल स्किन. सो बेसिकली जानवर का चमड़ी, जैसे हमारा चमड़ी है, इट्स देयर स्किन, राइट? एंड इट्स ओनली आफ्टर टैनिंग इट and putting it through so many poisonous chemicals, we make it really not look like animal skin, but it is animal skin. And it's surprising to me because aaj ke date mein more and more brands are actually innovating and getting into vegan leather. And I know that, and not just in fashion, but also in cars. So I know that Volvo is trying to completely, go into vegan leather and go, animal leather free. And there have been so many big brands like, Gucci collaborated with Billie Eilish and launched their, vegan bags, like vegan bio-leather bags. And these bio-leathers are made from various bioproducts, which many of which are also agricultural waste. So we now have vegan leather made from banana. We have vegan leather made from eucalyptus. We have vegan leather made from apple, tomato, sugarcane, you just name it. And these are beautiful, leathers. And in feel and texture, they are beautiful. And of course, they are not at all, polluting and circular because they're made from, biomaterials. So really amazing products available. And there's so many Indian brands that are actually working with and experimenting with these kind of materials. And I think the future of fashion is definitely vegan because people are actually understanding the, environmental damage that we are creating through these products. In fact, leather is the most polluting material in fashion, like the most polluting one. And the chemicals that are used in tanning, I mean, of course, there is an environmental footprint of the animals being farmed and killed itself. But apart from that, the environmental, aspect of tanning are also really disastrous. So they use chemicals, like really damaging chemicals such as arsenic, chromium, formaldehyde, and these are all carcinogenic. So even the people, like it's not only about, animal rights issue, it's also a human rights issue because the people who are actually working in these factories are exposed to these chemicals which are actually carcinogenic.
It's so deep, and actually, uh, very, very, very good point that leather this name has been given by us. It's animal skin. The raw term, it might be hard, like it will haunt you to listen only that animal skin. So that's the fact. And I wanted to
Yeah,
ask that
and
why
that
PETA is, yeah.
yeah, in a country like ours, where
Mm-hmm.
we really revere cows and respect them and love them, or
Mm-hmm.
people don't even think twice what their leather shoe is made of. It
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just cows and buffaloes, and in the manner in which they are
Mm-hmm.
transported to these slaughterhouses, and their throats are slit in their full consciousness, but also other animals. Like nowadays, even snakes, alligators,
Mm-hmm.
crocodiles are killed in the most gruesome ways. Like snakes are, killed with a hammer. The alligators, yeah, get a rod pushed into their heads to kill them. Crocodiles are electrocuted. So that all this, so that their skins can be removed, and they're farmed, by the way. I mean, it's not that,
And
yeah,
that's
these animals are now farmed so that the skins can be peeled off their body, and these, really so-called exotic skin products can be made. It's
it's
horrible
torture. It's
how,
torture.
we can even fathom this
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
kind of cruelty in a society. It's, yeah, horrifying.
Horrifying. Why PETA doesn't operate in Gulf? In
In
India.
actually, we operate world over. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, in the Middle East, we are already working in Jordan, and
Okay.
we run a veterinary clinic for horses, camels, and
Mm-hmm.
donkeys.
Mm-hmm.
And we are also working with the government there, and
Mm-hmm.
because of our
Mm-hmm.
work with them, now a lot of horse carriages in the famous Petra site are now replaced
Mm-hmm.
with electric carriages. And we are also there working in Egypt, and we have we have also investigated the really cruel animal ride industry there. So these camels and horses are used are used for rides to these pyramids in
Mm-hmm.
Egypt, and we have investigated it, and it's horrible. They are kept in really inhumane conditions. They are made to work in scorching heat without any water or rest. And this investigation is available up there, on our website for people to see. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, there is PETA supporters, Muslim PETA supporters, and they have launched a website called, animalsinislam.com, which
Animals
talks
in
about,
Islam.
yes, animalsinislam.com,
Okay.
which talks about, what Islamic preachings and Islamic teachings about animals and compassion towards animals, and what Islam says about being kind to and compassionate to animals. And now there is a big movement even in Middle East where people are actually, trying vegan, going vegan. So
Yeah, yeah. In Dubai, we have many restaurants, good restaurants who are vegan. Actually,
wow.
there
See,
many restaurants are there in Dubai, and whenever we talk around that, we were waiting. We will see PETA Dubai, PETA Gulf, PETA Saudi, and you won't believe my first A-level podcast episode is with a lady, Right to Rescue, Yasmin, and she is the horse rescuer. She runs her rescue team with horses. The horses who are retired, the horses who are injured, they are burden for the owners. So they made them to sleep, and she rescued them from there, and she runs her own eco-friendly resort kind of thing, and it's a happy moment where she made those horses live again.
what an amazing work she's doing. Really.
Yeah, yeah. And it's because maintaining a horse is not easy. It's a huge cost.
Absolutely. All large animals are. All
Yeah,
large
it's a
animals.
huge cost. And Gulf and Dubai, this climates like UAE climates are really really very hot. So stables need to have ACs and all, and she tries her best to accommodate with all these things. So she's an amazing lady, amazing.
Well,
Yasmin, I remember.
that's an
So when he
amazing
said,
and difficult work.
yeah. So that she's one my first episode one with LOL. I remember amazing. So this all this all stories, this all journeys are very interesting for us who are animal lovers. Do you think we can transform someone who is not an animal lover? Can a non-animal lover get interest about all these things psychologically? Because you already been there, you know the profession.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that that's possible, because I think a lot of people are not even aware. Like, a lot of people don't even know there has been so much, what do I say? Um, the meat, dairy, and egg, these industry, these lobbies have worked really hard to hide the truth from the public. They will show photos of happy cows and happy chicks, and I
Yeah.
mean, it's so misleading. People don't know what is actually happening to the animals that are ending up on the plate, and that is where we, PETA India, we set out to bring that truth to the public. We do investigations, we do, public awareness outreaches, we go to schools, we go to colleges, we do, legislative work. So we do social media, online, awareness campaigns. So we do all this so that we can bring out that truth in front of the public, especially in India, because in India, people have always aligned with the value of ahimsa. So that is the core of India, ahimsa. And even our major religions here, have ahimsa as their, ahimsa towards animals, in fact, as their very important tenet. So we want people to understand, that these products are the products of violence. And in India, where, cows are revered, people don't even know that it's actually the dairy industry that supplies cattle to the beef industry. There's no, beef industry as such in India, or a beef farm where cattle are actually being, bred for
Yeah,
beef.
yeah.
Basically, the dairy
India is
industry.
the second largest supplier, traders of beef. I was shocked
Exactly the
when I
point.
come to
And
know the ratio.
yeah, and people don't know. I mean, these cows, one, they are artificially impregnated year after year, because obviously a cow or a buffalo, like any other mammal, produces milk only when they get pregnant and they give a baby. So people don't even,
Make them pregnant.
yeah, don't even understand the basics. Some people, that cows and buffaloes don't give milk, mothers do. It's mothers
Yeah.
who give milk. So after this impregnation, their babies are separated from them, because obviously if they drink all the milk, these are profit driven companies. They want to have as much profit as possible, so there would be less milk to be sold. So these babies are separated from their mothers, and which is, I think, the most horrible thing to do. The most horrible thing to do
Absolutely.
is to separate a mother from a child.
Absolutely.
And that is what happens routinely in the dairy industry. Their milk is taken out. Most of the time, they're given oxytocin injection, an injection which is banned, but still is illegally used, without labels, in a lot of dairies. And we've seen them. There are so many other investigators who have seen them. And these oxytocin injections actually are given to these animals so that they produce more milk. But these oxytocin injections are so cruel. They give the pain, like stomach cramps, like they get during labors. And we induce labor pains to these cows every single day, just so that we can eat more milk out of them. And when these cows are done, because after these pregnancies, like back-to-back pregnancies, in 5, 6, 7 years, they become dry, like they become non-productive. Then they are either, sent off to the slaughterhouses to be killed for leather and beef, or they are abandoned on the roads. And same thing happens with their children. Like if it is a female, of course, they go the entire cycle of abuse like their mothers, and ultimately even they will be discarded off by the dairy industry. But for the male calves, just when they're days old, they are either starved and sent to the slaughterhouse for leather and beef, or they are abandoned on the streets, like the one story that I shared from many years ago that changed a lot in my life. So this is the standard
Absolutely.
practice.
Yeah.
And same thing is leather. Yeah.
Leather. This
yeah.
industries, and trust me, 1st June is my birthday month, and my date is 1st June. So the best article I have seen, the best hoarding I have read is from PETA India's dog milk campaign launched 2025, 1st June, World Milk Day. And I see this, I saw this campaign. I was laughing out of my heart, and I said that bang on. Bang on that PETA press release explained that all the instant and the cruelty went through. You just explained that dog milk, and what a sarcastic way it delivered things, like amazing. And hats off to this guts that yes, we are standing against tradition, against culture, against so many things. And how do you all, PETA India and like PETA, how do you all respond to criticism from industries or individuals who feel threatened by your campaign?
See, honestly, I don't think individuals feel threatened by our campaigns. It's just that, they react because it challenges, their own principles. Because, as I said, a lot of people are actually very kind and compassionate at heart. It's just that they're not aware of what happens in these industries. And because when we challenge the speciesism, like the way we try to do with a dog milk campaign, basically we challenged people's speciesism, the discrimination, the bias that they have for one species. They prefer one species over other species, which is actually the reason for animal abuse and animal exploitation. So when we challenge that, it makes them uncomfortable, I feel. And that is why, that's where the reaction comes. But I think, what a lot of what we actually do is very much aligned with, our Indian values. As I said, our Indian values of ahimsa and being kind to animals. And that is something I think everyone carries. And even people who are, unwillingly or unknowingly, I would say not unwilling, unknowingly contributing to the abuse and to the mass exploitation of all the animals in the meat, egg, and dairy industry. They actually really feel for those animals. Even with the egg industry, we have this we have done investigations across, India in poultry farms where actually egg farms where, we see that male chicks, again, just like male calves cannot produce milk, male chicks who cannot lay eggs in the egg industry. And male chicks, by the way, these chicks are different from the boiler chicks. Boiler chicks are bred to be, meat heavy. And that's different. And these chicks, they are layer chicks. Because they're male, they won't really grow that big, that fast. How we have, genetically modified boiler chicks and how to be. That's why these are not of use to the egg industry. And they are also killed in the most gruesome ways, like, by macerating them alive, by drowning them alive, by suffocating them, burying them alive, being fed to fishes alive. And I think these investigations, these truths, they really challenge people's perception, because a lot of people think that, okay, as long as we are not killing, like we are not responsible for killing of an animal, we are not consuming meat, it's okay, because a lot of people are actually not consuming meat for ethical reasons. But then they realize that even consuming eggs and dairy is nothing different. It's causing the same amount of exploitation. So it makes them uncomfortable, I feel.
Absolutely. And this, I'm going to enter a segment, and it's very, very famous for LOL. It's rapid fire. But today's rapid fire, like, how will I explain it? Like, people want to ask PETA India or PETA, cultural clash, food freedom, ground reality check. But because I wanted to inform that India's vegan products reality, like products market, is now valued at over $1.3 billion from 2022.
Yeah.
And showing mainstream engagement and market demand, which is amazing, which is awesome. But still, these are the most people are asking this. And through our channel, we are going to publish it directly from PETA India. Okay, so let's do this. Well, Dr. Kiran, the first question which people are asking the most, can we truly call it freedom of choice if children are served only plant-based meal in school? Or do you believe promoting veganism in school limits food freedom for children?
Okay. First of all, if it can't be called freedom of choice if there is a victim involved. There's a victim involved, and it's not just the animals that are exploited and killed for those products, but it's also the humans that are exploited in the slaughterhouses that are in such abusive industries, also the environment that is damaged because of these products. And, let's be very honest. Children do not really have a choice. I mean, it's generally dictated. The choices are really dictated, by others and by the trends. And by advocating for vegan diet, we are actually giving them a freedom of choice, which is usually, exploited by the dairy and egg lobbies, because they do so much of lobbying. So we are actually providing them with honest information about the food, which is good for them. and also, is a kinder choice, and making them pick it for themselves.
How do you respond to critics who say veganism is a Western ideology being forced on Indian communities?
So, the term vegan was coined in 1944, but
Okay.
the very first vegans were a Himalayan tribe living in India 5,000 years ago. So tell me, how is veganism a Western concept? Like, veganism was born here 5,000 years ago. Similarly, as vegetarianism was born in India, and India has actually influenced Western countries, to be honest, to ditch meat. And, as early as 4th century BCE, we inspired Westerners to understand the, importance of a vegetarian diet and of ahimsa. So I think it's the very core value. It's veganism is very core to India, and as I said, most of our meals are anyway vegan. Most of the food that Indians eat, and even today, India is the world's largest vegetarian country. And in past few years, the vegan population has risen in India by 360%. So I think veganism is very native to India, same as ahimsa.
Oh, I mean that people are literally searching for this. Oh my God. I was waiting for this question because I knew it. India runs by politics or by communal things. So there's a question that why does PETA only target Hindu festivals and traditions but stays silent on the other communities?
Actually, this question is basically a whataboutism that is spread by people who participate in cruel activities and cruel practices like Jallikattu, and all other sort of cruel practices. It's a whataboutism by them. PETA India, it speaks about all forms of cruelty, irrespective of which tradition or culture it belongs to. Anywhere where animals are harmed, we speak up and we take it up.
Correct. And I am being neutral. I'm not supporting PETA India, but yeah, PETA India has already launched I think, wet market.
Yes.
Wet market has already been launched. If you have no idea about what slaughterhouse and all this, please go and see their campaign Wet Market. You will get goosebumps. And trust me, violence and cruelty doesn't have anything with communities, communals, or Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jews. Doesn't matter. Cruelty is cruelty.
Yeah, I agree.
Shocked. And do you guys care more about animals than hungry children in India? Is PETA more focused on animal suffering than human suffering, like poverty and hunger?
Actually, interestingly, Kasturi, caring about animals is actually caring about humans. And, this connection is very well explained in, PETA India's director, Purva Joshipura's book. The book is called Survival at Stake. And the book basically explains how all the, crises and issues that humans are facing today, including the pandemics, pollution, the climate change, the violence that we are facing, all of this is linked to treatment of animals. So it's all interconnected basically. And I really encourage people to look up this book, purchase this book and read it. And I mean, for people who do not really like reading, it's also available on Audible for people to listen to. But it's very important for us to understand why caring for animals is actually important for our own survival.
Correct. And now this question is literally like, are you funded by foreign agencies to promote veganism and disrupt Indian agriculture system? And this is coming from and literally, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think, you should ask this question to McDonald's, KFC, and Burger King. I mean, what are they doing? But
Yeah.
anyways, that in India is a very rich agricultural nation. There are 45,000 plant species in India. And to be honest, India is set out to be the world leader in vegan products. So we are such a rich agricultural nation. I had already explained that we are making leather out of agricultural products, and not just products, even agricultural residues like banana peels, pineapples, tomatoes, and so many things. And similarly, for foods, we are already a world leader in millets, and millets are the new superfoods. And there are so many other products. Even vegan meats are made with, pea protein and with soya. And we are already producing all these, crops and grains. And we are set out to lead the world. In fact, we can really, really help our farmers, benefit from the vegan movement. So I think it's only helping the Indian farmer, the vegan movement. And we really encourage people to, help these entrepreneurs who are coming up with like really great agricultural ideas, and vegan food products, and encourage them. We even encourage people to try out these new products that are really amazing, nutritious, and good for people's own health.
What are upfront answers, and no doubt, I think nation will be listening this. Nation will rely on this, and thank you, Dr. Kiran. You have been amazing guest. Junior Sara, itne I have been doing podcast for so long, and itne sare harsh questions maybe I have not asked. No, I am very much like on a bad books that I ask too much raw and unfiltered questions. But this episode, I'm going to remember it. It's too much direct and too much so nice one. I
Thank you
think
so much. In fact, I don't think you
it
were harsh at
creates.
all. You were very kind.
And thank you so much, Dr. Kiran. You've been amazing. You've been honest. And as we are coming to the wrap up of this session, it's an amazing discussions. It's an amazing journey we came across for this long. And what about your experience with LOL?
So it's been amazing. It was a real pleasure to be here and to speak with you, not just today. Even otherwise, it's been a pleasure to know you as an individual, Kasuri. And I do not think you were harsh at all. I think you were really kind. And I'm really glad that you picked up these questions, these difficult questions, because it was equally important for people to listen to these answers, and for people to actually understand what really happens with animals, and how we as an individual, with our choices, with our intervention, can help these animals and change their lives, and even it improve our health and our environment while doing it. So really thankful to you for inviting me to be here, and for setting out this podcast, not just with me but even otherwise. I know Let's Off Leash set out with an aim to help animals, and it's an amazing thing to do. So I'm really, really thankful to you, where we just discussed how some podcasters are calling in people and spreading all sort of negative issues and negative feelings. Here you are, with this really amazing positive messaging, spreading love and kindness and compassion. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kiran Ahuja. That's the wrap from Let's Off Leash. How you can help PETA India, PETA World, PETA is everywhere, donating, reporting abuse, raising awareness. For more information and to get involved, visit PETA India's official website. We will give everything linked down. And the best part of it, what? That if this episode made you feel something, don't let it stop there. Hit that like, share, and comment button this with someone who needed to hear it, and subscribe to Let's Off Leash and PETA so that we get connected, because the more we talk about these issues, the closer we get to ending them. Be the voice, be the change. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and always stay unleashed.